So that is what happens when you don't look at the time and you're messing around with a quad and you thought you'd bricked it. So, and I'm not going to blame Mario, but I'm going to blame something with Mario's name attached to it. So, yes, that's what happened there. I didn't realise the time. I was debugging something that went horribly wrong. And then suddenly I looked and thought, Christ, I was meant to be live nearly 10 minutes ago. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, it is Sunday night and it is time for another live stream. Now, tonight, there's all sorts to talk about. We're going to catch up a little bit on the news that landed earlier this week, which was the DJI stuff, and I did a dedicated video on that. I'm not going to go too much over it today, but we will touch on it. We're going to touch on some interesting stuff as well, because there's quite a bit going on in the OpenIPC world. We have 2 bits of news there. 3 bits of news, actually, because I think I bricked my air unit. But yeah, we've got some news there. We're going to talk about some interesting things in Ardupilot, and whilst Ardupilot is definitely not the go-to when it comes to flying small quads like this, some of the developers have been doing a bit of work to try and bring Ardupilot right up to date, or at least closer to the likes of Betaflight with regards to how it performs on small aircraft. And the really cool thing about that is the fact that you're going to be able to have small aircraft with all of the Ardupilot functionality. Now, yes, there's INAV, and all of the knives are going to be out for me at the moment, and I am unreasonably ignoring INAV at times, and I still don't fully understand why. Oh, pardon me, that was my drink. I still don't fully understand why. I have no issues with INAV, yet there is just... I've got some history with setups on INAV and getting it working, and I just don't know. I have an irrational fear of INAV that I don't think I've got over yet. And genuinely, there's no good reason for it. But we will talk about Ardupilot too. We're also going to try and talk a little bit about O4 compatibility, and specifically the Goggles V2, because I am seeing a fairly big bubbling undercurrent of discontent that is starting to come around with regards to the fact that the leaks that I have published and others say that O4 is going to work with the Goggles 2, the Integra, Goggles 3, and the new Goggles N3, but they're not going to work with the V2s and the others. So we want to talk about that as well. Now, I'm on the overhead mic tonight. Do me a favour, if you watch regularly, do you prefer me to use this microphone on the live streams? How does it sound? Because I always like to use this mic because I spent a lot of money on it. But the truth of the matter is, this is the studio setup that I use generally, and it's not a podcasting setup or anything like that. And this is the one I just usually use. So that's sort of why I use that one for that and this one for this. So I'm just going to mute something whilst I because I've got the audio on the desktop. And the guys on the OpenIPC team are trying to help me with the problem I had. But I need to quieten that down until we get over this. So the mic is better by far. Interesting. Okay. So this is the Sennheiser MK600, just for those who actually care. Quick question, Ian. Why did you hold back on leaking the DJI stuff and wait until someone else did it? Is there a legal reason? No. There absolutely isn't a legal reason. So if I was under NDA, I would not be able to talk about it at all. Now, whilst technically you can talk about what's in the public domain under the NDA, most NDAs have an agreement in them that says you must also try to protect the company's secrets as well, which means you wouldn't even be able to talk about it then. However, it isn't because of that. It is because sometimes I'm shared things that it's shared not to be leaked, is the term I will use. Or at least not leaked from that source or that person. So it isn't fair for me to then break that agreement. If it was all about views and being the person who gets to say this, there's loads of stuff I could say, but it's not about that. So there are times when people give you information which is, hey, this is interesting, but please don't share it, or please don't talk about it. And that's how it is. But that then changes when that information ends up in the public domain. And that's it. Now, the truth is, some people have asked me, am I under NDA by DJI? I have no NDA. I will not be involved with the launch at all, okay? That, as far as I know today, I won't be involved with the launch. As far as I know, right, on O4, there aren't even any KOLs involved yet. I mean the general wider audience. I don't really think DJI are ready. I still don't. Look, there's talk of the end of the month, but this launch is really weird, and they're desperate to get it out, but they're not quite ready. So we're just going to have to wait and see. So, but that's the reason I said I hadn't shared it. And look, there are people who will read those comments and say, oh, you only said that just to try and remain relevant. The people who know me know, and the people who know I know, and the people who don't, it doesn't really matter. But there are times I'm shared something which I can just leak, and there are times I'm shared something where I can't. And that's the truth of it. And with regards to that dump of DJI data, someone literally just appeared on my Discord, and the info appeared on the internet like that, and just dumped it all. And it was a mother load, and we were just like, oh, well, now the cat's out the bag. Let's get on with it. And that's how it works. So that is the reason sometimes. It's, look, you know, there are gentlemen's agreements. There are reasons. It's as simple as that. What I'm really bad at is giving hints. And for those who were paying attention, I did tell you some of this over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So, for instance, if I just do this a minute, I'll show you something. And if you pay attention in the live streams, I did tell you some of this. The big one I actually leaked the day before. The big one I actually put on the channel in the community page the day before, and it's still up here. Because I didn't take it down. Oh, no, it's not that one. There you go. The big one was this one. This was posted, if you look, 9 days ago. That was before all of this information came out. And if you noticed, I told you about INAV users get ready to feel some gentle warmth of some DJI OSD love, which is the INAV support. Oh, and it seems I need to order a lot more 1S packs for early next year. I was telling you in my own way what you needed to know. Sometimes I have to sort of put it out there in different ways without out and out saying it. So yeah, look, you got to pay attention, guys. Joseph, fact. Oh, I could say something, Joseph, but I can't. I'll get us both into trouble. Yes, but no, look, from a launch perspective, I don't expect to be involved from DJI. Here's the truth. So whether any of the bind and fly manufacturers will be involved and one of them reaches out, I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know. It still doesn't feel imminent. That's what I will tell you. I still don't really buy this end of month thing at the moment. I've seen no evidence of it. I've not heard it outside of one specific source. I'm not convinced. I'm still not convinced this year. I still think this could be Chinese New Year next year. So don't get your hopes up too soon. You got to pay attention from the streamer that starts 10 minutes late. Did I get my hands on Goggles N3? I technically own a set of Goggles N3. However, unfortunately, DHL, being the bunch of that they are, didn't deliver them Friday. So, I'll quickly explain this. There will be a Goggles N3 video coming, and I want to say a bit of a shout out to someone on this, because on the Avatar, we got supported, the channel did on the Avatar, and I think it went quite well, and we got supported on purchasing, and I'm actually pleased to say that the same people, for those who don't know who it is, which is Grey Arrow's Drone Club, has supported us with the purchase of the Goggles N3 as well. And I'll be talking about this, no conditions. It's just that they wanted to support the channel and do something like we did before. So there will be a video coming. There will probably be a teardown coming. We're going to get them apart on the bench. We'll probably do a live unbox teardown again. Will probably be the game. The goal, unofficially, was to do it last Friday. Unfortunately, the website that I ordered them from said that they shipped with DPD, which meant they would have arrived Friday, but instead they shipped with DHL, which means they're not going to turn up for an extra 24 hours because DHL are a bunch of wankers. And they can't seem to deliver to South Wales in 24 hours. They seem to, everything gets held up at the bridge for an extra day. They are the only carrier that I use that does this. So they will be here tomorrow. But I'm not going to do a live stream tomorrow. Monday's not the day to do a live stream. So I think I might have to do a live stream tomorrow because I don't want to sit on them for 5 days until we do it. We're going to have to wait and see. But look, I want to say a huge thank you to Grey Arrow's Drone Club. We would not be doing this without their support. My goal was to wait till the Goggles N3 were available as a standalone because it just wasn't worth me ordering another Avatar 2, a Neo kit. However, Grey Arrows are the ones who've supported us and they said, we want to see it, we want to get involved. So amazing support from them. So it's a big thank you. I don't usually do sponsorships on the channel, and it's a very specific thing, and they've been really good at helping us with very specific things like this. So, but we'll talk about that then. So they'll be here tomorrow. I will have the N3 in hands tomorrow. Will I do my standard latency test with the new and the Avatar 2? Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time to get to the latency test. Look, there's going to be a lot of work to do with the latency testing. DJI did not send me goggles. No. DJI do not send me anything. No. DJI do not work with me on this channel at all in any way. So, period. So, yes. So, that's the situation with that. Now, to start, I want to talk about a couple of bits of news before we get to, because we've talked about DJI, and we'll come back around to DJI because there's some interesting stuff to talk about. But the first thing we need to talk about is two things related to OpenIPC, and they're both very interesting, actually. So, the first one, if we go to the desktop, is this. And this is a contribution from Cadex FPV for $1,000 to the OpenIPC project. And it seems that Caddx is one of a number of brands who are getting on board with OpenIPC. Now, alongside this, we have this appear on the GitHub. This is a pull request, or at least, no, is it a pull request or was it a branch? What is it? It's initial commit with regards to drivers from Caddx for their hardware. So, it appears to be the case that Caddx, like RunCam, like Emacs, are getting on board with OpenIPC. Now, this in itself actually isn't that surprising to me. So, there are two things to understand here. Number one, Caddx is still a very big supplier of analog FPV gear. They still sell a lot of analog FPV. If we go to Caddx's website, They have, they still have a fair amount of analog gear showing at times. They still got their cameras. They've got their tiny cameras. So they're still involved in analog. They don't make VTXs and stuff like that, but they are definitely still involved in the analog world. Now, as for what does this mean for the likes of Avatar HD, and there's been a lot of conjecture and speculation over the last few days, what does it mean for Avatar Walk Snail? And genuinely, I don't really think it means anything, if I'm honest. I genuinely don't think it changes anything. I think this is Caddx dipping its toes into a new world because you've got Runcam and Emax and other Chinese manufacturers getting involved. This could be as much Caddx don't really want to be left out of it. The truth is, if there's money to be made, they can do it. It's as simple as that. But I don't really think this has major bearing with regards to their sort of commitment to Avatar HD or the future. Okay? That's my personal opinion. Now, am I happy with the fact that Caddx seems to be spreading themselves even thinner than they are today and trying to put development time into something else rather than putting that development time into fixing the issues that they've promised on the new system, including a version 2 system for the Avatar people? I think it's a little bit murky. Not murky. I would rather they put all their efforts into actually making the app work properly, because it doesn't, finishing the issues on the Goggles X, and then starting to develop the V2 system. But at the end of the day, they are a business. These could be a completely different team, completely different people involved, so let's wait and see. Now, someone said up here, does this mean that the Avatar system would be compatible with OpenIPC? No. Look, they're completely different worlds. Don't intermix the two. Think of this as much as Runcam having analog cameras and the Vista, Caddx having the Vista and analog. It's just another system. And I suspect, Caddx like money. They think they can make money on this. Why not? If anything, this is probably a large push to try and maybe end analog FPV. And the thing to understand with analog, and I have actually discussed this already, is analog is going to get more and more expensive over the next couple of years, because we're starting to see those chipsets become more and more difficult to find. Analog is dying, right? Analog technology isn't, but the people who make the chipsets are moving away. Analog is getting over. We all benefited from cheap analog because the chipsets were widely used in lots of other products. The problem now is they're not widely used in lots of other products. And now you're starting to see the actual global use cases of these analog chipsets reduce further and further and further, down to the stage of it's going to actually get to the point of analog being more expensive than digital. And that could happen. People have always gone, oh, why is that? It's more expensive than analog. You have to start to come to the understanding that there is a point where analog will become more expensive than digital across the board. That is going to happen at some point. It's not that it will vanish, but production volumes of the hardware and the chipsets are going to get lower and lower and lower as the world has globally moved into a digital age. And that's just the reality. So we're going to have to wait and see. So that's the first bit of use. So Caddx is getting involved with OpenIPC. I think it's a good thing. What I hope it isn't is quite as sort of toe tipping as Runcam's attempt. Runcam's was a bit of a crap show, if I'm honest. I wish they'd have put a bit more effort into it. You know, bolting on that the module, it's all a bit nasty. You know, if you look at what Runcam could have done, what Runcam should have done is had something that looks like this. Oh my god, that's in focus. Boom. Which should have looked like this, which is the OpenIPC IAO. This is my second one. My first one is in my frame. But what Runcam should have delivered was something that was very much along the lines of this. Which was an AIO that was all in one, pretty clean, pretty tidy. You know, look, it's got a fan on top, which makes life a little bit challenging. But overall, it isn't particularly terrible. Yeah, certainly not bad at all. It's certainly one of the better ways of a VTX being designed. You know, it's not perfect by any means, but Runcams should have been like this, if I'm honest. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest with ourselves here. So, the Runcam is just, yeah. The Mario's very good for an early version. There's no question about that. I would have expected more from Runcam, is my point. Now, with regards to what Cadex intend to deliver, let's wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see. It's just going to be interesting. But look, I'm actually quite happy to see them get involved. It's nice to see more hardware. Now, whilst we're on OpenIPC, before we move on from that, there is something else to talk about, and that is that there is a new board coming from OpenIPC as well, called the Thinker. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is going to replace the Mario. Someone might be out there to tell me. I'm not quite sure if it's set to replace it. It is a smaller single board solution. As you can see there, it is version 1.0. It definitely looks smaller than the current version. Same processor, 2 to 6S, 3 UARTs, IMX335 camera with IMU in aluminium case. Interesting, there's an IMU on the camera. Hello, Gyroflow. SD card slot. Yeah, and there's also going to be a tiny version as well with, so what is the, so wait a minute, is the standard version not got, so am I reading this right, that the standard version doesn't have the network card on board, whereas the tiny version does? Yes. So the standard version doesn't have the network card. Yes, there's no LAN card on that. So you're going to need to use your own external LAN card. Correct. And then the tiny version, instead of having the SD card slot, has the small Realtek LAN card. So, not quite single board for the standard, but single board for the light. Pro and a light. I wonder who names things Pro and light. So, that seems to be what is going on right now. That seems to be the situation. So, really cool. It's not out yet. I'd like to see it. Looks good, no complaints. Obviously, we're in a lot of renders right now. There is a picture here which doesn't show you a lot, but you can see it there as well. So, yeah, looking interesting. Look, there's lots of stuff going on in OpenIPC. Look, we're still in this very much development stage. You know, it's not there yet. I was meant to be receiving the Emacs kit, but it hasn't arrived. Although I have had notification of something which I don't know what it is, so it could be that. But I haven't had the Emacs kit arrive, and they were meant to send it. So if that arrives, I will be looking at that. Unfortunately, one of my big criticisms of OpenIPC, and it's not a criticism of the project. Look, OpenIPC is in development. Right? It is a development project. I will still label it alpha/beta. I think it could be fair to move it into beta now, but it is still very much a project in development, okay? And everything takes time, and everything's learning, and everything is a bit of, I think this has bricked itself in the update. It's no one's fault. It happens. It's just one of those things. I need to check it when I get off this stream. But look, it's very much a bit of a time suck at the moment. Look, if I didn't have to run a YouTube channel, I'd be putting loads of time into this because I'd have it and I'd be able to tweak it, play with it and everything. If you don't want to spend a lot of time messing around, it's really not for you yet. It still is in that very early stage. And someone said there, I'm just sad OpenHD is not really getting the love it deserves. Look, I've not really seen anything from OpenHD to talk about. Genuinely, if there is something on OpenHD to talk about, someone put it in front of me and I will. What I can't do is track 50 different things that are going on. I can track a limited number of things. And what I can do is keep an eye on things, but I know there was some hardware in the works, and I know the devs, there's some really great devs on the OpenHD. And I need to reach out and have a chat with them again. But the truth is, I do need people to poke me if there's something going on something sometimes for me to go and have a look at it, because I can't track everything. And I'll say something interesting. OpenIPC, and I've been quite critical at times of how much noise they made before I felt it was ready. But that noise also dragged me and others in to have a look. So there's two sides to this. And I could be critical about, it's not there yet. But on the flip side, would I actually have put so much time into looking at it if they hadn't? So everything's a game of marketing. Would I preferred things at times to be a bit, more realistic? Probably. But that's just my opinion. But it doesn't mean... it doesn't mean that it isn't doing interesting things, and it really is. I'm updating everything today so I can get it flying this week. I've had to take a bit of time out just because I haven't been able to. But yeah, the real problem I have with OpenIPC today, the real problem is it's just time. It's just time, Yes, correct, AVI. They haven't really wanted to poke. So, from an OpenIPC perspective, there's lots going on. You need to update if you haven't updated for a while. I'm going to be doing the Mario now. I did see Curry Kitten put out a video on the Emacs. I think it's going to change so much in the next 12 months. You're going to see so much change in the next 12 months. I'm looking forward to the hat coming for the Redaxo, which means you'll be able to do an easy ground station. There is talk of FPV goggles. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know. There's lots of options. So that is where we are with OpenIPC. It's really good. I'm pleased to see more hardware. So we've got Caddx, and then we've got the new board. So it won't be long. Interesting that Cadex is splashing the cash. Get all that lovely Cadex money, OpenIPC. All that Cadex Avatar HD money. They must have stopped paying some of their sponsored pilots for a while. Ooh, controversial. They must have stopped paying them to post on Facebook. Ooh, controversial. Did he just say that out loud? Just reading the chat. TBS hasn't made a new plane in 6 years, and all of a sudden they're releasing one within 6 months of DJI 4. I think there was a collaboration. I wouldn't expect it. Look, I don't see a collaboration. I think Trappy... Okay, so, for those who know, TBS have a new plane coming. There's some things I could say and some things that I can't yet because there's some stuff around this. TBS are a brand that I followed quite a lot on the channel. I think they've been in a weird place for 1 or 2, 3 years, and now they've come out of that weird place, and I think they're just now getting on top of products. You know, TBS said this week, and actually TBS is a good talk. So, TBS announced this week that they're almost ready to release Edge TX for the Mambo to replace Freedom TX. Trappy talked about this on his live stream this week. He also had a look at my channel whilst he was on this. So hello, Trappy. But yeah, Trappy all discussed the fact that they are almost there to have support for Edge TX, not OpenTX. Have I said OpenTX? I'm losing track. Edge TX on the Mambo. I'm going to start this again. So this week, Trappy mentioned on his live stream that they are almost ready to release Edge TX for the Mambo. Now, he did talk about the channel on there because he was looking at the Sky Zone goggles. However, it looks like about 2 weeks. I'm not saying it. But yeah, it looks like about 2 weeks. And yeah, we will finally have Edge TX available, which is great to see. As for TBS, they got the wing coming. That's around the corner. I don't see really any collaboration. Look, don't add up 2 and 2 and come with 28. Trappy, and as I've said, TBS have been a bit lost for a while, but they're now back. And I think TBS seems a lot more stable. And look, for those who haven't watched the video, there was a lot of legal problems. There was a lot of moving problems. There was a lot of problems in Trappy's world. They had to move. They had to deal with his ex-business partner. He's talked about all of this stuff, and it all desettled the business. But now it seems they've stabilized and they've got themselves in a position where they've got their firmware team working again. There was complications with their developer as well, as I understand it. Was it Ukraine related, actually, the developer? I'm sure it was. I could be wrong on this, but I'm sure it was Ukraine related for his developer as well. So you've had a move, you've had a business issue, and you've had a developer issue. So it's hardly surprising that TBS have been quite destabilized over the period. But now they seem to have got back on and leveled everything up. And it's good news. Look, FPV is better for having TBS. Do you actually think it's going to be actual Edge TX or TBS Vision? There are elements that have to be tweaked, such as the bootloader. Trappy is flying the wing with O4 in Steele's video. How do we know it's O4? He might be, but how do we know it's O4? One of the testers could have given him the O4E unit, because there are testers with them. He's sorting out his hydroponics. Yeah, so I think it's good news. Look, TBS is an important part of FPV. Many of us started with TBS gear, and I did included. So I'm pleased that TBS is back. I'm pleased there's new products coming. I'm really looking forward to the wing. I want to see it. I want to understand it. There's some stuff to talk about. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. But yeah, let's wait and see. And TBS being back is a very, very good thing. And that's really all there is to say. It's as simple as that. So I'm pleased. It's good to see. I'd like to have put TBS actually in the dock tonight, but I couldn't. So We'll have to wait and see what the OS is like. I think there are... What I did read when I listened to Trappy on the Mambo, so you're not going to be able to update it via... You're going to have to update the Edge TX versions via Agent. You will not be able to do it via Edge TX, and you will not have the companion access, as I understand it. So it is a somewhat customized version, but it has been done with the blessing of the dev team, I believe. It's not exactly full, but Trappy is keeping his promise to do it. Evening, James. How are you? So that's the good news. But yeah, it's going to be a tweaked version. Now, personally, I'll be honest, I don't really see the need for Edge TX on the Mambo. Freedom TX is good enough. I'm not sure how much people really need on it, but it will be nice to see it on there. But I'm not really sure what else it will change. So, but the wing is going to be cool. I will be buying the wing. Genuinely, I will be buying the wing. I hope they do a bind and fly, because I just want to pick it up and go. I want to just pick it up and go. I'll be looking forward to that. It looks bloody fast, that's for sure. I think there is absolutely a gap right now for a bind and fly wing properly set up with good hardware and components that isn't just being tossed out by He-Wing and others. I think there is a real gap on some nice out the box. There aren't any pics. There's been no leaked images. There's some blurred out stuff, but we talked about that last week. So, okay. So that's it. Let's see. But yeah, I think there's a gap in the market. Good wing binder flies don't exist. Agreed. I honestly think there's a gap here. Atom RC has a great plug and play ring and plane. That's interesting. Atom RC. There does seem to be gaps. Yeah, we did see. Tariffs are going to destroy FPV. Let's see if it happens. An idiot with a bind and fly wing is worse than an idiot with a bind and fly drone. Nah, I'm not sure I believe that. Where's wing? Yeah, when is the beard wing coming out? The beardy wing. I want to see the beardy wing. And it comes with incense sticks on the wings, like little guns held below. Like pilot tubes. The only problem, though, is if there was a Wes wing, you wouldn't be able to fly it because it would have been banned by CASA. So you'd be able to fly it and you'd be able to buy it and put it on your mantelpiece, but you wouldn't be able to fly with it, would you? When are we getting a Mads Tech Bardwell cook-off? Bardwell will win. Radiomaster Love Toy. Right, do we need to look at this before I move on? Have I missed something? Because I haven't seen something. They haven't told me about something. What have I missed to Radiomaster? I haven't had an email about it, so what have they released? There will be a rumour that you did something awesome with it, which is all you need. You knobs. Radiomaster Love Toy. I don't know what we're talking about. DJI style Love Toy. Is it on the website? Because I'm not seeing it. Is it leaked? Is it? Because I don't know any. Oh my god, there it is. Just seen it. Didn't know about this. Oh, yes, I did. You're on about the one. Sorry. It's not a motion controller though, is it? It's a throttle controller for electric surfboards, skateboards, and ethos. It's not a motion controller. I did see this, sorry. I don't think it's a motion controller, is it? I could be wrong, but I didn't think it was. It looks very similar, but Express ELRS. Is it? No? 2.4 gig receiver. It's only got 2 PWM channels. So it's just a throttle. Yeah, I thought I was missing something. I did see this and pretty much ignored it. So, yeah, not really that exciting. Okay, so now I'm going to, with regards to the DJI 04, I'm going to just quickly talk about this before we move on to the goggles talk. So obviously we had the 04 talk this week and the leaks and all of the information. And look, I've done a video on this, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I have a dedicated video. That ain't it. But look, here's the specs. Here's what we talked about. It's very interesting. We're just going to have to wait and see. Now, there has been quite a lot of conversations around this, actually. And what do we... Is this going to end Caddx? Is this going to be the end of HD0? Is this DJI fighting back? Right, okay. So, is this DJI fighting back? Is yes. However, never underestimate DJI's ability to deliver a gotcha. And deliver a gotcha in such a way that will annoy the hell out of you forever. So, whilst this all looks brilliant, there are complications that will come to light. There always are. There's even some here in the specs already. But just don't think for 1 minute DJI is always going to give you everything you want. And there is still going to be a fundamental market for HD0 for Cadex with Avatar HD. DJI is not producing a goggle with HDMI input, HDMI output. They are not producing a VRX module. They are not producing 8 different cameras, 16 different VTXs. DJI is still hemmed in somewhat. Now, there is no question that they are definitely moving in a direction which is brilliant. You know, we've got a Pro VTX, which has better image quality, Betaflight and INAV OSD, but it's only basic INAV OSD. Do not expect sneaky fonts. You're not going to get it. You're going to get the INAV Core OSD on this. It's got really low latency in race mode, down to 15 milliseconds. But here's one gotcha we've got to watch. We do not know yet what this low latency is going to be in normal mode. So, for instance, if you look at the 04 latency in the Goggles 2 and Integra, it's 30 milliseconds, but there's no race mode on them. But the latency as low as 15 milliseconds is race mode. We do not know what the restrictions of race mode are. We do not know what the performance of race mode is. And what we then don't know is what the latency is like in what we would deem today normal operating mode. Is it going to be this 30 milliseconds that we have on the Goggles 2 and Integra, or could it be a little bit less? We just don't know. Race mode is particularly interesting, but we don't really know much about it. Is it going to align with race channels? Is it two-way? I expect it to be two-way. Is it going to have terrible penetration? Look, there's a lot to understand yet. DJI is still DJI, and they always do DJI things, okay? There is going to be so much to understand about this system, it's going to be crazy. You do have Rocksteady 3.0 and Gyroflow, which is great to see. You have there is so much here which is brilliant. But wait for the gotchas. There's always a gotcha or two with DJI. With the light, things look incredible. You know, sub 10 grams VTX, 1 to 3S input voltage, 60 megabits live view in Goggles 3 or 50 megabits on Goggle 2, which will be the same as the Pro. 1.5 inch sensor, single antenna with 30 dBm of RF output, so they're not using MIMO. 26 gigs of onboard storage. Look, there's a reduced quality DVR, but that doesn't really matter. But what is particularly interesting, DVR, what does DVR normal mean? What do you mean DVR normal? What does DVR normal only 1080p or 4K? No, the DVR, it'll record up to 4K 60 on board the DVR. But it doesn't have D-Log-M. The Lite doesn't have D-Log-M. Whereas the Pro has D-Log-M. So normal and D-Log-M. That's what the normal means. The normal is normal, not D-Log-M. Normal versus D-Log. Because you've got D-Log on the film. So it's just got normal color profile. Is the term to use. But what is particularly interesting is that, is there a race mode for the Goggles 2? No. The only goggles that support race mode is Goggles 3 and Goggles N3. There is no race mode for the Goggles 2 and Integra. And I'll talk a bit more about why that's probably the case in a minute. But what's interesting here, and there's a little bit of a hint that they've underclocked this, and that is the fact that the latency on the Lite VTX appears to be higher on the same goggle than the Pro. The spec we were given, and this could change. This absolutely could change. But the latency on the lightest, smallest VTX is 5 milliseconds higher in race mode than it is on the Pro. So, which is a bit of a weird situation because the lighter VTX is the one that you would most likely want to use in a race situation. You are not going to want to put this in a racing quad. And whilst the new VTX is essentially smaller than that, it's technically not far off, okay? Or should I instead use this one? Sorry. You are not going to want to put this in a race quad. It is just not going to be what you want to do. What you're going to want to put in the race quad is the single board VTX. But the single board VTX has the bigger latency. Even in a 5-inch race, do you really want a 20mm wide camera that is... Do you really want a massive camera in a race quad? Do you generally want a 200 quid ear unit in a race quad? And it can't handle 4 to 6. Yeah, but you run it off a back. Your flight controller will have a back. Is the latency hardware or software dependent? It will be hardware. It will largely be hardware. Software, yes, but largely hardware. So, there are some gotchas here. There are absolutely some things that don't tick every box. So, it's interesting. It is incredibly interesting. And I think it's going to change the game for DJI. Genuinely it will. But it ain't ending Avatar. But no one's racing with Avatar HD anyway. Everyone will be using HD0 if they're racing. You ain't racing with Avatar. Main benefit of this race is being more inclusive of DJI pilots, a lot of freestyle casual pilots. What you've also got to take into account and expect this. Be careful overlapping what DJI call race mode with analog, race mode, channels, and anything else. I am expecting, and here's a prediction, and I don't know if this is the case, I am predicting this entire DJI race mode to be entirely about them and not have anything to do with race mode, normal race channels, not have anything to do with race on anything else, and simply be an in-house term called, hey, we've created our own race mode that we're going to take. If you all fly DJI systems that you can use in this race mode, you can fly up to, say, 16 pilots at once, and you've all got really low latency when using the full-size air units. And when you use it in combination with our gear, here is our own race tracker, here is our own lap timer, and here is our own stuff. Do not fall into the trap of thinking DJI is trying to make their system more compatible with what already exists. DJI is always about DJI, and DJI is always about doing what suits them. So don't confuse this race mode with DJI trying to be more compatible with analog, because I don't know, but I firmly think this will be another DJI specific mode that suits them. It'll have benefits like this ultra low latency, 15 milliseconds. I'm not saying that it won't, but it will be designed for DJI to go, hey, we've got a system you can race with now, you should all use it. That's what it will be about. It's an SDR. They could probably add race mode to the G2. There are technical... Okay, so, look. There are a lot... And this speech is in... Okay. People have to understand, between Goggles 2 and Goggles 3, there are big technical differences. Now, I'm going to get a bit down the rabbit hole here. You have to understand this, because this will lead us into V2s as well. But look. Let me just grab this. These two goggles, right? They are both OcuSync, and they are both capable of working with the O3 ear unit. However, there are some big technical differences between these two with regards to the RF chipset. This, the Goggles 2, and everything before it uses the P1. This uses the new S2. Now, when DJI moved from introducing the original FPV system, so let me grab an air unit because I will need one. Where's my box of air units? It's vanished. Where is it? This is the original DJI air unit. Now, in this air unit is the P1 chipset, but it is just the P1 chipset. There is no additional video processing, and the way it worked was the operating system ran on the P1 chipset. The camera processing was handled on the P1 chipset, and the P1 chipset also handled the RF front end as well. This air unit is the same setup as the V2 goggles and the V1 goggles. There is just the P1 chipset, which handles operating system, image processing, and RF. When DJI moved to O3, they introduced a second chipset alongside it called the E3T. And the easiest way to think about this is the E3T is like having an external graphics card on your PC. The original air unit is like having your PC with onboard Intel graphics, and the O3 is like having your PC with an NVIDIA 3080 attached. It's that simple. The same processor, you still got your Intel chip, but instead of using your onboard graphics, you're using the external graphics. It's a lot more technical than that, but that is the very basics. What DJI did, though, with this was offload OS video processing to the E3T, and then they just left the P1 as the modem, basically. it became a modem rather than it being the whole operating chipset. Now, whilst DJI was able to do that, the P1 was never really designed for that situation. And the easiest way to think about this is, whilst the Eagle 3T was handling video imaging and OS, that all still had to go through the main processor on the P1, because that processor was still there. It might not have been used, but it was still there. So think of this a bit like a PC where you've added an NVIDIA graphics card, but it still has to go through your original graphics card. Now, if you're really old, like me, this is actually like having a Voodoo 3D accelerator for those who are old and grumpy and have been around as long as I have and remembered the introduction of 3DFX and the accelerators that you had on your PC, and what you had to do was take your graphics VGA cable out of your onboard graphics into the Voodoo 3DFX card, and then your monitor would go to your Voodoo 3DFX card. That was how it worked, and that is essentially what DJI are doing here. With the move to 04, DJI have completely reworked things. Now, the chipset doesn't have all of those cores, the old OS cores. Now, the S2 is the modem and the DSP, and that communicates directly with the S2 and with the Eagle 3T. So now those two talk completely. That is now like having an NVIDIA card in your PC and you're bypassing your onboard graphics. As a result of that, the pipeline is smaller, latency can be reduced. So, there are technical reasons why DJI may have been able to reduce the latency on 04, but they can't on 03. There are technical reasons why that is the case. So, when it comes to Goggles 2 and Integra, they are always going to be limited by the pipeline that the hardware has, because this has the P1 chipset, this has the Eagle 3T in the old configuration. Goggles 3, Goggles N3 have the new 04 chipset in the new configuration. As a result of that, DJI may have been able to bring down the latency of the system. What you've got to not do is confuse compatibility with optimization, and that is the difference here. They may be compatible technically, but it's not optimized, and that is the difference. Now, this leads us very nicely on to the noise, the conversation around the fact that the V2 goggles, and I need to grab mine, they are here, these are not looking like they're going to be compatible with 04. Now, yes, DJI was able to bring 03 support on these, but these goggles do not have the Eagle 3T chipset at all. And as a result of that, there is only going to be so much these can do. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say DJI could not bring compatibility for 04 on these goggles. I think they probably could somehow. But there are three things you need to take into account with that. Number one, DJI have already added so much compatibility on these, we don't even know if there's any space. Number two, the amount of dev work needed is probably unreasonable to expect them to do, to bring support to a set of 5-year-old goggles. Remember, these are 5 years old now. And number three, even if they did, how well would it work? It is in all likelihood not worth it. I don't personally think it is at all unreasonable that DJI is not going to bring support to these. I know there are thousands of people with these out there, but I can't hand on heart say they are nasty, they haven't brought support. The very fact that DJI are bringing support to the goggles to an Integra is more than I expected. And I cannot be critical of them for not bringing support to this. I don't think it's fair. You always have to be fair. And understanding the technical limitations, there's a point where you have to go, you know what? These are at the end of life now. They are at the end of their life. What I'm probably more disappointed in is that the N3 wasn't really a replacement for these. I am a bit disappointed that the N3 wasn't a V2 version 3, because they're not. They don't have the dual LCDs. They don't have the 100 hertz. I'll be honest, if they'd have brought the N3s out with 100 hertz or 120 hertz, I'd have been bob on. But wait, let's try. Let's wait and see what the latency is actually like on the N3s. We're just going to have to wait and see. But with regards to support, there are very good technical reasons why DJI may not be able to do it. I also don't expect them to keep looking back that far. Chris has asked, do I think the Goggles N3 will make a good set of extra goggles alongside the Goggles 2? I don't know yet. I've got to try them. I can't comment until I've tried them. I don't know about any of the compatibility with spectator mode. We don't know what they're going to work like. I have high hopes. I've heard mixed results on the N3s. I've heard some FPV people tell me they're a load of shit. And I've heard some people tell me actually they're not that bad. I think what you've got to do is compare them to another set of box goggles. What are they like compared to the Caddx box goggle with regards to the lenses, the image reflection? What are they like compared to the Fat Shark HD0 box goggles, the Scout HDs? What are they like compared to other box goggles? That's the reality. So, will Goggles 3 be better than Goggles 2 after 04? I think better is a complicated term. I think Goggles 3 become probably the best choice at that point. But they don't support the original FPV systems, so. N3s don't support regular drones. They don't support FPV. Today, N3 only works with Avata and Neo. Avata 2 and Neo, I should add. In what sense do you mean end of life? End of life means do not expect any further updates. Do not expect any further changes. They will be as they are here. The real issue today isn't these goggles. The real issue today is the O3 and the Vista, because I am saying this now, I firmly think they will vanish very, very quickly now. I know the Vista didn't vanish when O3 was out, but there was technically a good reason for that, because they didn't have an alternative, cheaper option. Now DJI has 2 air units when they release. There is zero reason for DJI to really continue to make the Vista. And that is going to be a problem. But also, there is zero reason for them to keep making O3. And I honestly think O3 and the Vista will vanish pretty quickly. I don't want to cause people to run out and buy stuff and panic, but if you've just got into these, I would stock up on what you think you're going to need for a while. Genuinely, because once it goes, they'll go pretty quick. And there'll be stock around, there'll be used ones. But what DJI stuff dries up quite quickly when it does. But I don't see DJI. I wouldn't even be shocked. Look, I've already heard this is out of production. I've already heard this is gone. So, Neil W, why don't the N3 goggles work with the Mini 4 Pro? Probably because DJI hasn't been bothered to write the software yet. I'm too broke for that news. Take it back. I've heard it on very reliable source that's out of production. It's gone. End game. You have to also take into account, this uses a chipset that DJI don't want to use anymore. How long are they going to keep making that? They're not going to want to make more of that chipset. O3 will flood the second-hand market. Still available on their site for $269, but second-hand is $150 deal. Is it even feasible to change antennas on the goggles? Everything's feasible, just depends how far you want to go. Will DJI allow Caddx to still make the Vista or Vista knockoff? Caddx don't actually make the Vista. Caddx, Runcam brand the Vista. The ear unit is still made in DJI's factory. So if DJI stop making it, Cadex and Runcam don't have access. Do I think DJI will update the goggles to work with a meaningful part? I have no idea. I can't predict what DJI will and won't do with regards to their consumer drones. You just don't know. It's development time and hassle. I just don't know. DJI is a complex company who makes decisions based on a product matrix, which is designed with lifestyle, buyer type, money. So here's an example of how DJI work. Take a product like the Mavic 3 Pro. Okay? They're not going to make a $1,500 drone work with a $240 or $230 set of goggles. Because if you've got enough money to buy a $1,300 or $1,400 drone, you've got enough money to buy a $500, $600 set of goggles. That's DJI's thinking. So with the Mini 4 Pro, you've got to look at, right, what's the Mini 4 Pro cost now? Is it $700, $800? The DJI Mini 4 Pro, I haven't looked at for a while. Are people with a $700, $800 drone going to be happy to spend $500 on a set of goggles? This is exactly why the N3 was made, because people buying a $200 drone to $400 drone like the Avata and the Neo were never spending $500 on a set of goggles, or at least didn't want to. So for a $200 drone, DJI wants to produce a $200 accessory. For a $500, $600 drone, $500, $600 accessory, and then up the line. So you have to understand how DJI's marketing works, because their marketing isn't about giving everyone everything. Their marketing is about building products and ecosystems that suit their belief of lifestyle. A lifestyle. What kind of user buys a DJI Neo? A new user wanting to get into drones, excitement, play. Oh, we need a set of cheap goggles for that, for parents, for kids. What kind of user buys a Mini 4 Pro? Someone who knows a bit more about drones, who's bought the Pro version, who wants to be able to fly a lightweight drone wherever he does. But he might be someone who's, you know, in his mid-30s, who's got a bit more money in his pocket. So then that kind of person absolutely has the disposable income to go and spend it on something like a set of goggles 3. DJI is all about marketing. And they separate their product stacks off into these different boxes and a big matrix, and they level it all up, and they talk, you know, that kind of uses this. I saw this years ago. I used to be big into my Triumph bikes, and I remember when Triumph got big in the UK and they became a lifestyle brand, and it was all about how they matrix their products. Right, so that's where we are on that. Let me just read the chat. If you guys have any questions, please do put them down in the chat. We will try and answer them. MCFPV, ExpressRS 500, Commando 8 Vision 2, dynamic power on or off for UK pilots. I tend to fly dynamic power off is my personal preference, as long as I've got enough battery. I believe dynamic power is a lot more stable today than it used to be. I think in the early days there was a few quirks to it. I think now it's absolutely fine to use. But I still prefer to just go legal 25 milliwatts. Okay, so fly what's legal, maximum. Is it over for the Vista Ear unit? In my opinion, yes. How's the LoFo? So, the LoFo is built. I'll show you it in a minute. We'll have a look at it under the thing. But I didn't get to fly it today. The weather took a real horrible turn here. I flew a quad and destroyed... I did this today. Let me show you something I did today. Can't show you the quad because I'm not allowed to. But I can show you this. There is that O3 camera. Aha. I managed to do this to an O3 camera cable today. That's always a good afternoon's flying, isn't it? Camera's fine. I just need a new cable. It ended up in the props, yes. You can imagine the kind of aircraft that has that camera quite close to the props. So, yes, that is end game on that cable. I only had camera error, so is the autofocus working? Hello? Is autofocus working today? Yes, it is. Come on, autofocus. I have to put it like that. There you go. Completely mangled. You still tried to see if it worked? Yeah, I did after the crash. You can get the cables. Yes, you can get the cables. Can't comment on that. It happened because I fucking ran out of skill is what happened. I haven't flown for a little bit, and yeah, I was bad today. But I managed to destroy that today. Yes, so I caused some trouble. That'll buff out. I got run over by a train. Do I think Goggles 2 is still good? Look, I still think Goggles 2, I still think Integras will probably still be the best go-to choice. Even at 30 milliseconds latency, that's fine for most people. Most people will not be flying will be complaining with 30 milliseconds of latency. Most people will be fine with 30 milliseconds of latency. Nobody panicked by Vistas. We're going to have to wait and see. Any more news on Walk Snail Repeater? No, I've not. I know nothing about it. I haven't heard from them. I don't know if the testers have had it yet. I know they were on about receiving them, but I've not heard anything. Turn up the skill slider, yeah. You can use CPF 10mm nano cables for O3. I fixed it by opening it, making it naked. Yeah, that one is over. I know the Goggles 3 works with the Neo and Mini 4 Pro with the RC2. Will O4 work with the Goggles 2? Yes, it will work with the Goggles 2. Not the V2, but it will with the 2. Don't you love DJI's naming scheme? 2, yes. V2, no. And there's got to be a video about this, and that's going to be a freaking nightmare. I'm going to have to update my DJI compatibility video, and I don't even know where to start. What do I think will be the weight on a full tiny drone with O4 Lite? Whatever the weight of the drone is, plus 10 grams. Why did DJI make antennas non-removable on goggles? Because they're legally required to. DJI are legally required to make the antennas non-removable to comply with both FCC and EU regulations. They must not allow the user to be able to make a change to the system that increases its RF output. Its RF output is measured as EIRP which includes antenna gain. So when you look at DJI's specification of 33 dBm, that 33 dBm is the RS specification, including the gain from the antennas and including MIMO gain. As a result of that, DJI are legally required to ensure that you, the user, can't change the antennas. They don't have a choice. It's what they're legally required to do. That is why you can't change the antennas. It's a legal requirement. Do I think O4 will have the option for changing its power output? Yes, I have heard that DJI have brought back the manual power controls. Nothing new on the release date for O4. No, still don't know. I don't know what options they've got, but I have heard they've got off power control options. That could just be high and low knowing DJI. But I do believe it is back. Well, it is in the test firmware. What will happen on public release? Who knows? Any further questions? Put them down in the chat. We'll try and answer them. Why just DJI then? Why are HD0 and Walk Snail still allowed to remove the antennas? Well, first of all, HD0 goggles do not transmit. Therefore, they don't have any requirements to comply with FCC regulations because the goggles don't require to be FCC certified. HD0 is a receive system only. As a result of that, the antennas don't need to be certified, doesn't need. As for Avatar HD, that's an interesting question, which would lead me to reply and say, are you sure it's FCC certified? Are you sure it's CE certified? And that's all I'm going to say. Go try and find some certification on the Avatar HD system that properly seems to comply with the same rules as DJI do. That's all I'm going to say. Just remember, Caddx had been publishing a CE mark on the back of the Vista ever since the day it's released, yet the Vista is not FCC certified or CE certified. So how Caddx have got to have been able to do it? But Goggles 2 had removable antennas. Yes, and they were before the rule change. And actually, DJI lied. And I'll add this, DJI actually lied in the Goggles 2 because they actually say in the FCC certification that the antennas are non-removable for the cert. Goggles 2 do broadcast. All DJI goggles broadcast. But DJI actually say in the FCC documentation for the Goggles 2 that they are non-removable. They actually lied in the certification of the Goggles 2. They actually did lie. Genuinely, they lied. It's actually there for you to see. Non-user replaceable is the term they used. What I actually think DJI did on the Goggles 2 was try to be clever for you. And what I think DJI actually did on the Goggles 2 was they said they're non-user replaceable and they had a proprietary connector and Claudia came up with and I think DJI tried to play that game and I think they got themselves spanked. Will O4 use 2.4 gigs? No. DJI have limited it to 5.1 gigs and 5.8. 5 gigs bands only. The hardware is completely capable, but DJI have limited it to 5 gigs. Do I think O4 will be worth upgrading to from O3 for common freestyler? It depends if you're unhappy with the low light performance. O3, if you're happy with O3 today, I think you'll be fine. You've got no reason to upgrade. Where the real big benefit of O4 Pro is going to come is the low light in the camera. Remember, O4 Pro is more about filming. It's more about footage. Don't expect things like penetration to change that much, range to change that much. All of that will be the same. O4 Pro is all about basically giving you an Action 4 camera in the ear unit. That's what the O4 Pro is about. It is not about giving you a better freestyle system. But where the benefits of the Pro will come in is especially in low light if you film. Especially in low light. Will be interesting to see a comparison between Moonlight and O4. Yeah, you got to take into account, Caddx don't use good sensors. Caddx tend to use CCTV-based sensors in their cameras. The one thing to take a big difference between Caddx and DJI, most Caddx cameras are based on CCTV camera sensors. So one of the big reasons the Caddx cameras tend to have good low light is they're designed for CCTV applications. DJI give you camera drone sensors, filming sensors, but the issue is you can struggle sometimes on certain things. Is Caddx making a new camera to compete with O4? I doubt it. Caddx will try to drop something around O4. They will try to do something, but remember, Caddx isn't... The Moonlight is not remotely as good as O3 today. It's okay. The Moonlight is on par with cheap action cameras. Moonlight at best is on par with this. The Runcam Thumb 2. The Moonlight is not a good filming system. It is terrible overall compared to O3. And O3 isn't great. Moonlight is best you can get on Caddx, but it isn't great. So my mate has Moonlight on the Avata 2. Yeah, O4 will be in a different league. A different league. Is 1080p any better than 810p? Isn't it all about OLED screens? Yes, you are right, Lodi. It is a huge aperture on the O4 Pro. f2.0. That surprised me as well. That's like wide as hell. O4 already has fab penetration. Yeah, look, O3 and O4 were very close on penetration. Might be a smaller camera on the light. Yes, it is. It's a much smaller camera on the light. On par with the Neo. What video system would you recommend for the average Joe who wants to have fun flying? I have always said DJI. Out the box, I've always said the simplest to get using was DJI. It still is. Caddx was good as if you want to get into different ecosystems, different size VTXs. But if you just want to buy a set of goggles, buy an ear unit and get out and get a great system, DJI wins. Always has. Always has. Not a ton of difference in range penetration. No, that's my look. Overall I have found the range and penetration of O4 on the Avata 2 very comparable to O3 and the Avata 1. Very comparable. Very, very similar. Hoping Orca will get in on a digital FPV system. I heard a rumour this week, and look, I'm going to be clear in saying this. This is just a rumour. I have heard a rumour this week, and it was posted on my Discord, I think it was, or somewhere, that Caddx are going to be working with... No, it wasn't. It was posted on Facebook. That Orca are going to be working on Caddx on a digital FPV system. I don't know if there is any truth in that. This could be complete and utter BS by a single person online. I've seen no evidence of it. A person posted it on one of the Facebook groups. It could just be BS. So don't read into it any more than that. Orca branded OpenIPC. You never know. What do I think about the new update for the Neo? I haven't actually tried it yet. I've been waiting for the new goggles to come. But there's some nice stuff in there. And the update for the Avata 2 as well. They've added all the smart shots for the Avata 2. I don't think Orca are going to release a system. I don't see it. What's the point of Orca releasing a system? Genuinely, what is the point of Orca releasing a system? I just don't see it. How does O4 compare to the GoPro Hero 13 Osmo Action 5? Right, everything I've heard is that O4 is basically identical to the Action 4. Action 5 is a bit complicated because it's a different chipset and it's just come out. It could be the same, but the thing to understand is the Action 4 is based off the same chipset as O3 and O4 with regards to video processing. The video processing chipset in the Action 3 and the Action 4 is the same video processing chipset in O3, and that will be the same video processing chipset in O4. There is no upgrade to the video processing in O4. The upgrades are on RF. Okay? The video processing chipset is the same. It's the camera and the RF that's changed. So I have heard it's basically identical to the Action 4. If you're happy with the Action 4, that's what you're going to get. Yeah, but it's in better low light than the Action 4. I'll add that. Better low light than the Action 4. Yes, A4H quads. I've noticed the range on my Mini 4 Pro was limited in fog. Water. Water will affect RF. Absolutely. Absolutely. You will be astonished the difference moisture in the ear will make. It will be dramatic, potentially. Soli said, do I think DJI will update the goggles 3 to work with A3S? I have no idea. Sorry, guys. Look, DJI will... That stuff doesn't leak out. Look, questions around things like, will DJI add this drone support? Will they add support for the FPV, DJI FPV on the goggles 3? Will they add support? That stuff doesn't really leak. It'll either happen or it won't. There's no information. No one will know. DJI will just do it or they won't. You just also got to understand DJI only have so many resources as big as they are, and at times they are quite slow. I would be shocked if we didn't see the Air 3S on the goggles 3 when the Air 2S came on the goggles 2. It does make sense. But let's see. When is O3 meant to be back in stock in my local hobby shop? It may never be, depending on what I've heard. DJI FPV2, I don't see DJI ever releasing a replacement for the FPV drone. I think it was an absolute frickin' disaster for them. The amount of them that broke, the amount of them they would have to have repaired on Care Refresh, I think. If you look at what DJI did with the Avata, the original Avata, they took every mistake they made with the FPV drone and went completely the opposite. It's bomb-proof. It's almost unbreakable, is the Avata. Its plastics are harder than any other DJI drone. I think DJI... And then I think they overcorrected with the Avata, and the Avata 2 now sits somewhere in the middle. The Avata 2 is lacking power, but I don't know if we'll ever see an FPV, DJI FPV drone 2. I think it was so fragile. So fragile. The legs would fall off it if you just looked at it wrong. What is the best way for a noob to get started in FPV? Like, what system? Do you know what I would do? Here is something that people won't agree with me with. Here's some truth. If you want to get into FPV, go and get yourself the Neo with these goggles kit. and see how you get on. Honestly, right? Genuinely, I mean this. This drone is a cracking little thing that you can throw around, and you can throw it around. If you don't have a drone and you don't have anything and you want to get into FPV, right? 449 gets you through the door. And what's great about this kit is that when O4 launches, if you outgrow this and you think, you know what, I now want to get into FPV, you want to probably get it with the FPV remote, so as well. So you want to get it with the proper FPV remote, not this one. So you're going to have to spend a little bit more. I don't agree. Radio plus sim. I hate sims. I genuinely don't think sims are anything get you into it. I can't fly sims. I can't fly, but I can't fly sims. But you get this kit, right? And if you get used to this and you outgrow this, in a short period of time, we'll have O4. Okay? And then you'll be able to go and buy any of the O4E units and use it with these goggles. And you'll be good to go. And I actually think this is genuinely going to be one of the best way forwards. Cinebot 2530 Neo. I think there's a lot to understand in the way small aircraft fly. I think people will not learn quick enough. I think people will not learn acro. They will give up before they get used to flying on some of these other drones. A Vata 1 Fly More kit off eBay, 100% tow bar foo, a great deal. A used Avata 1 Fly More kit. The only downside to that, though, is the goggles. Avata 1, definitely, but what I like about saying this kit is that the goggles you can use forward. A lot of people don't like sims. I don't like sims. I recommend a 75mm Whoop. Yeah, but it's a lot to learn before you start, right? Look, the problem with a Whoop is one good flight and a smash, you're going to break the duct, you're going to snap an arm, you're going to burn out a motor. None of those quads, no Whoops, anything running beta flight, none of them are designed for new users. None of them are going to survive a decent enough crash. You can have one flight, break a duct, snap a prop, burn a motor, and you're out. You just won't do that on this. You just won't. You just won't. Honestly, the Neo is great fun. My 75mm 50 has 50 crashes. There ain't many freaking small quads I haven't snapped the ducts on and broke a prop in a very short order. Honestly, I just don't think they're the best way forward. Sims suck. You can't learn to drive a car, drive GTA3. Do you think Walkson V1 goggles are still good? Absolutely. One of my favourite goggles. No issues with them at all. The nice thing about DJI is this. You get to learn in safe modes. You get easy, get to use, get the thing. They'll guide you through it. And then you move through into the acro mode, which you'll get used to. And then if you get... The big error with the FPV drone, right, was it was too easy to break. So the FPV drone was amazing at getting people into FPV. They got used to flying it. And then they went into acro mode for the first time and they had an off and it just destroyed itself. The great thing about the Neo is that it won't do that. Now, I have no affiliate links for DJI, so I get no benefit in this. I honestly think it is the best way in for someone who's never done it before. And you're getting a set of goggles that you can use on other systems. Now, could you put together a nice system? Potentially. You know, someone tell me a 2.5 inch or 3 inch that you think is fantastic. Because I'm going to tell you your number one problem before we start, right? Someone tell me a bomb-proof to, get into. Tell me a bomb-proof one. Cinebot 30. GEP-RC Cinebot 30. Right. Nice aircraft. Now tell me about the batteries, okay? So, I know nothing about LiPo batteries. So what battery do I need for this? How do I charge it? Where do I charge it? What do I do? So I've bought the drone. What kind of batteries do I need? What happened? Do I just leave the batteries charged all the time? I just leave it charged. I assume I just leave it charged because, I leave my laptop charged. Watch videos. No. You have to understand, new users don't want to learn this. And this is what DJI have done. How do you bind it, lol? Yeah. DJI have done better than anyone else. Is you'll buy a box with a thing, you plug a USB cable into the side to the battery box and it'll charge the batteries. You take the battery out, put the battery in the drone, fly the drone. Nothing comes close. The only reason people like this is because you know about it. If you don't know, that's the thing. Battery charging, you just plug it in, all USB. It's everything. If you don't know, it's the Neo kit is astonishing for the money. Genuinely is astonishing. It's a huge learning curve. And you'll crash it. You'll crash that, right? You'll smash it for the first time, break the duct, because they won't include one in the box, because they never do. No one does. Also, look at the price of this damn thing. Plug and play, 480 quid. You can get the Neo with a set of goggles for that. I'm sorry, you can get the Neo with goggles for that. Okay. Analog versions are going cheap as no one. Even puts you DJ in a sim. Yeah, but it starts. I'm not convinced on sims. At all. Right. The last subject I want to talk about is something interesting before we finally move on to the full Q&A. And that is Ardupilot. Now, I haven't prepped this because I forgot. Okay. One second. Let me just find the Ardupilot FPV. Now, this week was the Ardupilot Developer Conference, and if you're sad like me, it is worth going through all of these videos. For those of people who haven't seen them, they upload videos of the conference. The conference next year is going to be in the UK, which is very cool. But there's loads of amazing stuff in here, right? There always is. But one of the big ones is what they call fast rates. And it's by Andy Piper, and it's called Copter Fast Rates. There's a whole presentation on it here, and the whole idea of this is to try and bring Ardupilot up to the rates and speeds that we're used to from smaller 5-inch copters. Now, this is all in testing. It hasn't been put into full Ardupilot yet, but the real key thing about this is the fact that the dev team have been working to try and bring Ardupilot to feel a lot more like we have in Betaflight. Now, Trappy actually talked about this in last week's TBS stream because he got to fly one of the quads in acro mode with it on. I haven't tried this yet. I do want to put a quad together with it on. I need to do a bit of a build to find a flight controller that's supported. But it is very cool to see what the team have been doing with this They talk in this video, and it's well worth to listen to if you've got an hour of time, but they go on to the benefits and what the causes are and what they're trying to do and how you enable it. And it is really, really cool. Genuinely, it is very, very cool. Up to 4K, which is fast, you know, which is very nice. And it's nice to see that we're potentially bringing Ardupilot closer to what we have in Betaflight and other things like that. So I think it's really, really cool. I am going to be testing this because I think there's a huge amount of interest in this. It's hilarious that Trappy was the best freestyler at the conference. Yeah, it says something, doesn't it? Does he even fly rotorcraft these days? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think it's very, very cool. I think it's very, very cool. And look, Betaflight is incredible. Incredible. But I really like to see Ardupilot come up. At the moment, I think there's only a couple of param adjustments. That'll turn to 2300 when they get it sorted. I'm sure of it. But I think it's very, very cool. Now, as I have sort of said already, I am unrealistically not biased against INAV, because I'm not biased. INAV is something that just doesn't really fall into my world. And it has improved so much, it is insane. I have some early experiences of INAV which were pretty bad. And it was mostly around the motor mixer and stuff, if I'm honest. It really was. I have to say, in the new versions of INAV, what are we, 7 point something now? The improvements they've made are incredible. They really, really are incredible. I was playing with it the other day, and all of the new configuration options are just so much better. So much better now. They really are. It's nice to see that you don't have all of this stupidity. If I plug this in, will this work with INAV? I don't know if this will. Let's have a look, shall we? Can we flash this? Auto select target. I don't know, does this board have a target? So that's CLI mode. Disconnect. Alright, I need to put this in bootloader mode. Let's have a look. I don't know if this board will have a target. This is a... oh, it's a Sky Stars. I don't know if the Sky Stars will. Let me just have a look down. Sky Stars, here we go. F722 HD Pro, here we go. Choose a firmware. Let's flash. There we go. We'll flash that a sec. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the work INAV have done for quads. Instead of INAV's supposed to be the best for quads. I find that hard to believe. I think the INAV devs will tell you it's the best for quads. INAV is probably great for long range quads because you've got some really cool stuff. Is INAV the best for quads? Look, I really like Betaflight. And I will say this, and we're going to come on to this in a minute, I really like KISS Ultra. I haven't flown it a lot yet. I've had a very quick flight today. But I also like all of the stuff in KISS Ultra as well. I think KISS are doing some really cool stuff. The KISS Ultra team, the dev there. But I love Betaflight. But INAV has a lot of really great features. I haven't tried altitude hold and stuff like. It's the position hold and the return to home stuff. Betaflight return to home is improved dramatically. But if I wanted to fly a long range quad, I would be still using INAV. I think that's crashed, don't you? Look, it still says erasing. Oh, there we go. It seemed to stop. Let's see if that flashes. There we go. That's better. But yeah, I think INAV is definitely the best when it comes to sort of long range quads and things like that. It's got a lot of potential. It really, really does. And it's just so much easier. Traceback in INAV is still really valuable. Yes. KISS Ultra. Look, I'll be honest. I'm really impressed with the Ultra configurator and stuff. If you guys haven't seen it, Ultra is... There is something in Ultra. I want to show you something in a minute, right? Because this... I was only shown this afterwards, and I wish you'd have shown me earlier because I'd have used it. But there's a feature in the KISS Ultra configurator which I think is absolutely phenomenal, right? And I think this should be done. You can only do this if you own the whole hardware stack. Now I've got to find a bloody micro USB cable. Right. Mini quad, 5-inch propellers. Now I've got to find that bloody cable, haven't I? Is it me, or is INAV configurator being awkward today? There we go. But INAV has come on a huge amount. A huge... I know what I wanted to show you in here was a lot easier. This alignment tool. This is freaking cool as hell. I couldn't find where you do the alignment. This is just so much better than they had in the past. If you haven't seen this, this alignment tool is really well done. And I mean really well done. You've got your pictures there of your GPS, look, your quad, your GPS and your flight controller. And the idea is you can adjust the angles or the yaws. So you can say, look, my flight controller is at that. And then you can go for the GPS. My GPS is at that. We need to level that back to 0. There you go. That back to 0. And that's just really, really cool. Just so much better than trying to work out stuff. I think, you know, it's really straightforward to see. So which way is my GPS pointing? My GPS is pointing that way. Just really well done. Really, really well done. And I was struggling to find the alignment tool in INAV. It's just, I thought this just blew my mind when I saw this. It was just, I was like, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Just really, really good. And everything has just come on so much in INAV now. It really has. Everything. Like the modes in INAV used to really annoy me, the way you did the modes, because you always had this, if we go to the modes, it's much clearer today of what's a modifier and what isn't, and it was always awkward because you couldn't really work out what was a modifier. Now you've got your flight modes, which is your angle and your horizon, and then you've got your modifiers, so you can have nav alt hold, heading hold, turn assist, and then if you've got GPS, your navigation modes will show up. It's still not crystal clear. I still think it could be a little bit better, but I actually think it's really quite good now. It's much tidier. Failsafe setup is basically beta flight. But you've got easy tune now as well. Nice in there. Nice to see. They've done a lot of really nice stuff. Genuinely, it's really, really good stuff. And then you got your main adjustments and your GPS, your GPS setup. So yeah, it's. I think INAV has definitely come on a long, long way. Now, what I do want to show you, something I think is fantastic, is on the Ultra, right? There is a feature on the Ultra, and it's not even the feature on the Ultra, actually. It's a feature on the configurator. So if I plug in the controller, first of all, and if we go to kissultra.com, okay? So we're going to click connect, and we're going to connect to our controller. Please update to the latest firmware. Okay, so let's just update this one because it's one I haven't updated. So let me just do this, and I want to show you something because I think this is wicked. Please click the reconnect button. There we go. There we are. So we're just flashing the firmware. KISS Ultra GPS return to home is on point. I believe it's very good. I haven't tried it yet. We're just going to have to let this flash. Nice and easy to flash as well. KISS web-based configurator mount for Quicksilver. Yeah, there's like some bits on, there's some bits I could be critical about. But there's some really nice features. INAV has much better return to home. Yeah, there's no question INAV's return to home is better than Betaflight. I don't know about KISS. I can't really come. Yeah, that's funny enough. Bad for life. That's what I was trying to get my head around. KISS it's expensive, but you're also not paying for cheap Chinese hardware. So, why is KISS considered superior for freestyle? I think there's a lot of people who believe it flies better than anything else. Is KISS simpler than Betaflight? Yes, I would say. KISS's hardware, though, is not cheap Chinese hardware. You're paying for someone to make it. You happen to know if DJI 1S VTX weight of 10 grams includes camera? My understanding is that is the weight of the camera and the VTX, and as it comes. As for have a heatsink, it must have a heatsink in my eyes. No one I know publicly have seen it. That includes me. I have not seen the 1S. I can't tell you if it has a heatsink. I can't tell you if it can have. I would expect there to be shielding. Is it removable? It's going to have shielding because it won't pass FCC. Why does KISS have the old USB connector? Probably size. Okay. So we're going to connect to the Ultra. Now I need to activate. Okay. Now I want to show you this feature, right? And I saw, when I was told about this, this blew my mind. So if you go down here at the bottom, right, and click this little arrow, you can see you got a little arrow down here. This gives us information. If I go into the advanced, and you start thinking, right, I want to use advanced serial connection. I know what I'm doing. You highlight over this. It gives you the pinouts for each of the ports. Just look at this. It shows you where the pads are. And when you highlight something, when you have the arrow on, tells you everything about it. This is phenomenal. I can't... Look at this. It's really nice. So you go up here, select your type. You've now got their motor output mapping wizard as well. So you've got your manual way of doing it, but you've got a wizard now for doing it too. You've got your receiver. But when you go over everything, it tells you, look. And this is the benefit of having 1 or 2 flight controllers. See, look at that. Buzzer pads. Oh, there's the LED pads. This is really nicely done software. Really nicely done software. You've got your defaults down here. This is H7. And also part of this, if you're using the Voltara ESC, you've got the ESC flasher as part of it again. H7 on the KISS Ultra, yeah. But I just, there's a lot of nice features that have been introduced as part of it. And you got the new motor test wizard and all of this stuff as well. How do I get a Volterra? You can buy it. I think it's a gimmick feature. I don't think it's a gimmick feature at all, because here we go, right? Right, serial receiver configuration. Right, so I want to... Right, serial 3. So which port am I on? If you've got 3 or 4 ports, here's the configuration. That's the port I've plugged into. When you do this with the Ultra, you got 2 ports on the Ultra. So if you're looking to figure it out, like it just makes life. Layers can change from board to board, and they change. Yeah, but they change this for the different boards. That's what I'm saying. It's updated for the boards. That's the advantage of owning your board. So they can change they will change the imagery for the board. This is the small one. This is the Mini. And it's showing you the correct pinout for the Mini. If you go to the Ultra, it shows you the correct pinout for the Ultra. So that's the Mini. If I unplug that, grab this. Grab this, which is the low flow, which I'll show you in a minute. Plug in on here, because this is the Ultra. Reconnect on the Ultra, and then go back to the Advanced tab. And now, look, it's given us the pads for the Ultra. It's really quite cool. Really quite cool. I really like it. Now, for those who just want to see, let me zoom out on the low flow. 2 seconds. Let me just put this flight controller away and you can see it. Noobs, all you have to do is go into Google and type the pin out of the flight controller. Yes, but until you figure out how many different boards they've had. And then you've got to figure out, is it the V1, the V2? And then you figure out, are you looking at the right board? It's not quite as simple as going to Google. You think it is, but it isn't quite as simple as going to Google. Sometimes Google is wrong. So, this is the low flow build. I'll show you this quickly. I finished this yesterday. So this, there'll be a video coming on the frame first of all. So this is KISS Ultra in there with the Volterra. You can see the ESC. I like this frame a lot, right? You've got a Vista in the back. I went with the standard DJI camera because I had a spare one. I'm a bit short of cameras for these original systems. I had to print some TPU pieces, which I did in blue because I fancied blue for this one. We've got the ITS FPV 2208 motors on this one that I had and I was sent. It's a tight frame. You know, there's not a lot of space in here. If we just go in and show you. I've had one flight on it today, but I didn't have as much on it as I would have liked. The frame is quite tight. Just look at how high the flight. See, you got the camera up front, and then side on. I went on side on the power, and then you got the KISS Ultra there. Is it cracked? Is what cracked? And then I've also got TVS diode, which I'm running on there, and I've done it on wires down onto the power. TVS on the left side. No, it's not cracked. I don't know where you're looking. Is it cracked? It's not cracked. There's not a crack on it. It's tight. I haven't tried to build this particularly tidily, if I'm honest. You know, look, I haven't spent too much time trying to get it tidy. You'll notice there's some gaffer tape there because I needed to tape on the Express RS antenna. I do not agree for 1 minute that TVS is snake oil. I fundamentally disagree that it's snake oil. So yeah, I didn't really... it's probably a hair. There's no cracks on this frame. It's fine. But I really like it. I really, really like it. It's been tested. It's been tested. I know who tested it. Jay tested it. One test does not constitute fact. One test, when there are millions of crashes, does not constitute absolute perfect fact. I love the guy who did the testing. I don't agree with it. I fundamentally do not agree that a capacitor can absorb every situation and a single bunch of tests. It's not possible to test it in every scenario. What I can tell you is I have never burnt an ear unit with a TVS diode on. Yet I have burnt ear units without TVS diodes. Capacitors are designed to absorb, but they can only absorb so much. You can do a bunch of testing on the bench. I've got 4 or 5 oscilloscopes. The reason I've never tested and pushed out a video on it is because no one can test it enough to make it absolute fact. And that's why I will never say with absolute fact it doesn't make a difference. It's wrong to say something as absolute fact when you don't know it is. You can go, in the tests that I have done, I haven't been able to prove there's a benefit. But there are cases that you cannot test on the bench. There are cases that you can't prove. You can slam a piece of wood into a prop. You would literally, the only way you could ever really prove it is you would have to have complete and utter data logging of the voltage input for hundreds of crashes and hundreds of crashes, and only then would you be able to at least say I have enough data that I'm comfortable to say it's at least not causing any problems. TVS diodes are widely used in industry for many, many reasons. A capacitor will absorb to a point, but only to a point. A capacitor can only react so fast. A capacitor can only protect so much. There is a point where the cap stops, and I would rather have the TVS in there. What is zero doubt is that a TVS does the job it does. So a TVS is a voltage clamp, right? The very simple is a TVS is a voltage shunt, a voltage clamp. You have your voltage that gets above a certain level, and then it starts to shunt it to ground. That's what it does. So you have your cutoff, your threshold, and then at a specific ramp rate, the TVS will shut down to ground. TVSs react incredibly quick. Incredibly quick. And what I would always say is, your capacitor will absorb to a point. But what if the cap is already full and you then have a spike? Where does that go? And I just feel that TVSs are by far, for the cost, especially when flying digital, worth it. Because I have never burnt in any crashes, and I crash a lot on my quads a lot, a VTX since using TVS diodes. It's an extra weight and failure point for no practical benefit. Not even to say the Vista is the most powered off a back anyway. Yes, but you still have the potential of being in the DJI diodes on the Vista. And why? Because of spikes on the UART. I'd actually go as far as to say you should also have spikes, TVSs on the UARTs. You should really, ideally, to stop. You see, DJI added the diodes as a fail-safe, not a protection. I designed a board that had full TVS on power for the UARTs and the diodes. I swear by them. I use TVS on every build. Every single build. Almost every quad I ever build gets a TVS diode. For 4 or 5 quid with a digital VTX, I ain't messing around. I am not messing around. Especially in situations where you could have the cap leg break off. You don't know. There's always situations. I'd rather have the protection. It's not a failure point for starters. It's got no way of failing. Nothing goes through it. It doesn't add a failure point. All it adds is additional protection. So it's not really a failure point. If you need power to the capacitor, you may as well attach a TVS to it. It's I fundamentally recommend TVS on everything. If it's a single one, if your flight controller's got one, great. They work extremely well at what they do, and I would rather have it on there. It's worth saving an O3 or an O4, let's be honest. For the money, for sure. There is no data out there. There is not enough data to prove anything, Wes. Jay's testing is not enough. I'm sorry. A bunch of you'd have to... The only way I will accept that they don't make a difference is I want to see 10,000 hours with crashing. And until someone shows me 10,000 hours with crashing, no one can prove the data either way. So from my opinion, I would rather have it than not have it. Because if I would rather not spend a £5 unless I have to. I'm not refuting it. I'm saying the test data isn't enough. The test data is not enough. A bunch of bench testing, you want 10,000 hours with 10,000 crashes, then do 10,000 on the same builds with, the same builds without, and then prove it. What you can't do is, but what people then cannot say is there is test data that proves they don't make a difference. In limited testing, they have not been found to be necessary. That is what the data showed. What they showed is they provided no benefit over a capacitor in limited testing. That is what should be said. What it isn't is there is absolute fact that they do not make a difference. That is the fundamental difference between what it is and isn't. And that's why I will never publish RF data on DJI systems. That is why I will not publish certain things, because you cannot test them in such a way that irrefutably proves the data is correct at all times. So, as an example of what I mean by that, I can prove without a shadow of a doubt FCC mode increases the RF power 100% of the time on a DJI O3E unit. What I couldn't prove is what that RF power is compared to, say, what DJI have certified it as, because there is no way to measure it in the same way DJI measure it. What I can do is show, is the DJI power level the same, less, or higher than Caddx on the same setting? That is provable. But what isn't provable is what that actual power level is. And this is one of the reasons I've never published RF power data, because you cannot do it accurately. I know Chris is a great guy. Me and Chris talk quite regularly, and Chris is a great guy, but I don't agree that that data is fact. That data is, in the test scenario he has, reflective of comparing 2 or 3 systems in that test setup. But what you can't say with that test is that this is how much power DJI has compared and they're lying or they're putting out more or less. What you can only do is take that data and compare it to something else in the same method that you're testing, and then say that is compared to that is that, compared to that is that. And you know, I'd rather I didn't have to spend the $5 on them. But all I know is I have not burnt a digital VTX since I put TVS diodes on a system. And I burnt a few in a short period of time at one point. And that could just be placebo. But from my perspective, what I look at is this. If you're going to spend $200 on a VTX, £5 is a potential insurance scheme against a crash. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? In my opinion, yes. I don't care which ones people buy. I don't care the brand. I tend to use the FetTech ones. I tend to use the FetTechs, the triples. Although I do wish they'd do a 4S version as well. I think a 4S version would be good. I think they'd be good to have them in multiple versions because the TVS diodes on the FetTech ones are designed for 6S. Otherwise, they'll start clamping. But I've also got some Hollybro ones here. I didn't really like them. They came with like a capacitor ring on the bottom. They were a bit weird. I quite like the... I tell you why I like the FetTech ones is because I mount them down next to the cap usually like this. I usually heat shrink it. No. I usually heat shrink it all as one unit. Oh my God, my focus is knackered. You can't do that. There you go. I was a bit rough when I finished off. I ran out of nice stuff, so I just wrapped it in gaffer tape in the end because I couldn't be bothered. But look, that's the build. I really like this frame. I like how low the decking is on it. It's a really nice low decked frame. There's no space in there though, so you know, you'll get an O4 unit in the back, but that's about it. But yeah, I really do like it. TVS affiliate links in the comments, yeah. And obviously it's tank style on the battery, so. I need an infrared cam drone tonight. Got hunter in my yard looking for down deer. That's all you need space for. Okay, guys. Now, before we wrap this one up, if you've got any questions, now's the time to put them in the chat. We've lost 100 people on that rant. I got bags of heat shrink for about $200 for $3. Yeah, I need to do an order from AliExpress, actually. TVS and capacitor combined there, yeah, on a little bit of cable because I couldn't get it. I don't like going straight to the XT60. So, yeah, I've got the TVS and cap combined. TPU tunneling on the arms instead of tape bare wire. Yeah, I had tape. Why the FCs don't come with a diode? Some do. Some flight controllers have TVS on them. Some don't. Is it bad to use an AIO in your 5-inch? Not really. I think some of these AIOs are getting bigger and bigger. There's no reason you can't. Have I seen the new sim made by Ukrainians? No. Have seen this talk of a thermal camera, but I haven't seen a sim. SpeedyBee comes with a TVS. Yes, they do. A couple of SpeedyBees have a TVS. Is on Steam in pre-release. Wow, okay. I did see there's potentially $150 thermal cameras coming out of Ukraine now. Ultra Vision 2 and Ultra Mini Vision 2 are TVSs. Do they? I didn't know that. I've not looked at that yet. That's cool. They sure do. I didn't know that. I haven't going over the full specs yet of that. Yeah, it depends how cheap, though, the real Joe, the AIO is. If the AIO is cheap enough, it's the price of a stack anyway. But yeah, there's new thermal cameras, seems to be appearing on the market. A lot of people have been asking me about this Caddx thermal. How interested are people in this Caddx thermal camera? It's not a thermal camera though. I can't quite make out. Is this thing a thermal, right? This is an infra camera. It's not a thermal camera. I can't work out if this thing is an actual thermal. See, there's a couple of different ones. You've got... So we've got this thing, which looks like a thermal camera. But this is something different. Look at this. So this is called IRC 256CA, which is said to be... This looks like the Caddx one a lot. But is it? That's an uncooled Vox sensor, so that's a proper thermal imager. Oh shit, you can't see. Sorry. So, right, we've got these cameras. There's a couple of cameras here. You've got this Caddx thing, which is an infra camera, they call it. Now, this is not a thermal camera. This is not a thermal. This is an AI imaged enhanced infra camera. Black and white sensor, 0 lux, high resolution. Right? But it's not a thermal camera. It's got an AI box, apparently. And there has been some footage of this shown online. It's not HD. No, it's analog. And there is footage of this on YouTube, right? So when you go on... Someone has posted a comparison of this on YouTube. It was a comparison... JB's done a video on it, has he? I didn't know JB had done a video on this camera. I missed this. Okay, then if JB's done a video of it, and here's a video of it here as well. But it's an infrared camera. So you can clearly see a lot. There was also a new video published. Someone published a video a couple of days ago of it. Where is it? Let me see if I can adjust the filters. This week? No. Cadex info is what I'm looking for. Someone posted a video this week, but I don't seem to be able to see it. Does it still work in daylight? I have no idea. I can't even find the video that was shared. There was one done this week. So you've got this info. Okay, so you got this camera, but you also then have these that are appearing on the likes of AliExpress, right? So was that how it, is that how it, was it in the daylight? Is anyone here showing? I was just trying to see on Reddit, does it show any daytime images? No, they didn't. But then you've got these, right, which is $200, which is still really cheap for a thermal camera, okay? I say 256 by 192 thermal camera module for FPV drone. But this is a proper thermal. When you look at the spec, right, this is a full thermal camera. But this almost looks like the same box as Caddx. But this is an uncooled Vox, so that's a thermal sensor. 50 Hertz. But I've not seen anything about these at all. I've not seen... There's not even really any info here on the camera's connections, anything. Obviously, you've got the Caddx one, which is this one here, which is 104 quid. But it's almost the same box. It is literally the same unit. You look at that, right? It is literally the same unit. I'm just wondering what these are actually like. I've not seen this. I don't know if anyone has actually seen this. So where's the model number? I don't know if there's any videos of this around. Should we just see if there's anything on that? Copy. Oh, here we are. Look at this one. And it says Caddx. So here is it. Ooh, that's low res, isn't it? That's thermal. Where was he going then? Yeah, look at the car hood. It's definitely thermal, isn't it? Definitely thermal. A nightmare because you can't see a tree or nothing. Jesus, I thought I fly bad at times. Is that a wing or a quad? It's got to be a wing, innit? It's got to be a plane. That's got the plane feel to it. The heat there on the buildings. Oh, sorry, the road. You can't land it. Yeah, you won't be able to see the ground. That's got to be a plane, innit? It's got to be a wing or something. That can't be a quad. Yeah, that's the scary thing. Look, you can't see the ground. It's got to be a... Is that... No, it's got to be a quad. I'm guessing he was struggling. Yeah, look at... That is clearly thermal, but at that resolution... No, it's a quad. Definitely a quad. And he landed. You almost need 2 cameras on that, though, innit? Just aim for people to land. Yeah, you would. Cam switcher would make it... Well, I think that module has a cam switcher on board, does it not? I've not really seen... It's great for finding a target, I imagine, at that point. Enough resolution to do the job it's designed to do. Yes, I think you're probably right. If you're in the air and you were, say, I don't know, looking to find a vehicle, I guess you can argue it does that very, very well. I might order one of these in. Heated landing pad. Quite impressed, though. It's definitely thermal, though. Definitely thermal. That's... I like more the thermal with colour. I agree. I wonder if there are other colour palettes available on it, because that's white hot. That looks like white hot he's got there as a setting. So I would, you know, I would like iron or one of the typical ones. I do wonder if he's struggling with the video feed, because he seemed to be a bit all over this. But if you were looking for a vehicle, I guess... Yeah, I'm quite... There's always something about having a thermal camera on a drone, isn't there? I don't think there's any other videos of it. Interesting. What's this? I'm not sure I want to see this. But let me just check. We'll have to be a bit careful on this. No, it's not really footage. There is a company, and it's on SUAS News. Let me just show you this, because this is... So, there is this company here, Ukrainian Innovation, Kerbus 256 thermal camera. So, this is a company that is aiming to sell thermal cameras very, very cheap. And what they're saying is high quality image, contrast, price per unit. If you buy up to 500 units, it's $250. If you up from 500, 225, or if you bought 5,000 units, they're as low as $150 a camera. Now, I don't know how you get these. I don't even know if you can buy these. I don't know if even know if we've seen these in use. I don't even know other than what Gary has posted there. I've certainly not seen video from one of these cameras. Oh, here we go. Test flight. So this is a test flight from one. Now, it could be. I'm interested now to see people. You can see a vehicle. People don't stand out as much. I noticed that then. That person did not stand out as much. You can see him, but he didn't stand out as much as he did on the Caddx. Yeah, I would agree there. The Caddx people stood out a lot more than he did. You could see... Oh, okay, I'm not sure I want to know what that was. Yeah, could be the temp differential. Could also be the ground temp differential as well. But I'm not sure. Yeah, horizon mode. I'm really tempted on the Caddx. So, the Caddx one was that, the Infa. So was it that? No, what? I'm a bit lost. What video were we watching now? What was that first video I was watching? So which one? Was it, did we think it was the Caddx Infa we were watching? Yeah, that one, was it? No, it was the second video. So I wonder what the second one was. Was that the Caddx? I'm lost track now of the ones we watched. Right there, I'm going to have to go to history. Caddx Info, wasn't it? So which was the first video we watched? I've lost the first video. Where's that gone? I've lost track now of which one was which. The Caddx one. The Caddx one for 208. Cadex Info. So that was JB's. Oop. That was me. Because the other one we looked at was definitely thermal, didn't we? We said the video wasn't the link on AliExpress. Yeah, sorry. That was this one. I'm losing track. I'm being an idiot. That was this one. The other one was the thing. Yeah, so that one. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, it's that one. So, sorry, it was the Ukrainian one, which wasn't as good. I'm tempted to order in one of them. I am genuinely tempted to order in one of these. These look very interesting. These definitely look very, very interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Same camera, different image. Yeah. I'm wondering how interested people would be in that. Genuinely, I'm just wondering how interested people would be in proper thermal. Especially with analog, because what you'd probably want to do, you really want a camera switcher system for this as well. You really want a camera switcher. I don't think anyone knows that exists. Yeah. Interesting. Right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. Look after yourself. We will be back same time, same place next week. Never know. There could be some news from DJI. Probably won't. I will have the goggles N3 tomorrow. I might do an impromptu live stream tomorrow and teardown tomorrow night. I don't know. I haven't worked it out yet. What I might do is an impromptu live stream and reaction tomorrow and then a teardown on Friday. That, I'd be interested in your review when you try to land. But no, I think we will do a live unboxing and reaction to the goggles. And then we'll do a teardown on Friday. We'll do them separately. That way I get to play with the goggles before I tear them down. Because there's a very real chance I will fucking break them and they will never work again. And that is why I am very pleased that we've got a sponsor. Because at least if I do break them, I'll have to go and buy another set. But anyhow, look after yourselves. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Speak to you guys soon.